Ah, so the moment has finally arrived. The one your soul has been craving for as long as it's known breath. The moment that doesn't just vindicate your instincts, but rewrites every accusation ever thrown against your sanity. You were never paranoid, never imagining things, never mistaken about the sense that something in this world has been fundamentally off. You, the wary and beautiful soul, who always felt the tremor behind the curtain, the quiet distortion beneath the noise, the faint hum of something calculated lurking behind coincidence. You were right. Every shiver of suspicion, every silent thought whispering, "This isn't right." Every glance over your shoulder that found no one, but still felt seen. This is your proof. The illusion is cracking. A whistleblower has finally emerged from the heart of the machine. And not just another disposable insider nursing revenge, but someone from deep within the architecture, one who sat in the rooms where the traps were designed, who witnessed the quiet signatures sealing your fate, who watched as the blueprint of your containment took form, piece by piece. They've lost everything to deliver one simple, devastating truth. You were set up from the beginning. Let that truth settle deep in your bones. Every inexplicable failure, every door that shut just as you reached for it, every friend who turned strange without warning. It wasn't fate, karma, or cosmic irony. It was orchestration, a slow and deliberate dismantling of your trajectory, engineered to make you question not the system, but yourself. They needed you to internalize the poison, to believe the fault was yours, to carry shame like a birthmark so you'd never trace the fingerprints back to them. Because once you see the architects, the illusion loses power. Once you stop blaming yourself, you start looking for the design, and they can't allow that. Source Zero, as they call themselves, watched the Watchers for over 15 years. They saw how the machine actually operates, not the polished version sold in motivational books and seminars, but the cold, mechanical grind of a system that measures human spirit like a liability on a balance sheet. They discovered the algorithms that assign invisible labels, the classifications that quietly mark certain souls for management. You were one of them. Maybe it was your intellect, your refusal to conform, your unwillingness to swallow prepackaged truths, or simply that spark in your eyes that declared you could not be domesticated. Whatever the cause, you were flagged early, as a potential disruptor. From that moment on, merit ceased to matter. The rules changed. They couldn't destroy you outright. It would draw attention. So they built something subtler. A labyrinth of invisible resistance. Every path led to exhaustion. Every breakthrough dissolved into air. Every win became a prelude to sudden loss. You weren't jailed, but you were contained. You weren't silenced, but your voice was algorithmically buried. You weren't erased, but your opportunities were quietly vaporized just before arrival. You were left in a simulation of freedom, a psychological cage where you could see the horizon, but never reach it. The documents Source Zero shared read like horror disguised as bureaucracy, flowcharts outlining containment strategies for problematic individuals, scoring systems assigning points for traits like critical thought, charisma, resilience. Every question that shook authority earned you a mark. Every soul you inspired, another. Every victory over sabotage, maximum threat rating. They called you anomalous in reports, chaos agent in meetings, restricted personality in memos. But in their closed-door language, they used one word only: dangerous. Not because you posed violence, but because you were immune to control. Incorruptible. And that, to a system built on obedience, is the ultimate act of rebellion. But Source Zero discovered something even darker. The sabotage wasn't purely systemic. It was personal. Those betrayals that seemed to materialize from nowhere. Some were incentivized. Those inexplicable breakdowns in relationships, those character assassinations that snowballed overnight. They weren't chance. They were designed. You were isolated by intention. The system mapped your emotional ecosystem, identified your anchors, and methodically fractured them. This process has a name: social architecture manipulation. A strategy so elegant and cruel that the victims rarely realize they're under attack. They simply watch their world collapse through the hands of people they once trusted, never seeing the quiet hand pulling the strings from above. And here's the most terrifying revelation of all. There is no secret cabal, no candle-lit council of villains plotting your undoing. It's maintained by ordinary people, bureaucrats of limitation, managers of acceptable success, everyday faces who genuinely believe they're protecting order. They eat dinner and sleep peacefully, convinced that suppressing people like you is necessary for societal balance. They mistake your clarity for chaos, your autonomy for threat, your insight for instability. You disrupt the illusion that comforts them, and so they frame your existence as danger. Source Zero was once one of them. They followed the rules, believing in the righteousness of their cause, until one day, they watched the machinery consume someone too much like themselves. That moment of recognition destroyed the illusion. They saw what the system truly was. Not a safeguard, but a predator. Efficient, emotionless, devouring brilliance while keeping its hands clean. And when the weight of their complicity became unbearable, they crossed the line. They began leaking the truth, piece by piece, until the entire structure trembled. Because what they uncovered was beyond politics or profit. It was spiritual warfare, a global mechanism designed to suppress consciousness itself. The system doesn't just attack the body, it studies the soul. Every adaptation you made, every creative response, every breakthrough born of struggle, became data for them. Your defiance trained their algorithms. Your survival refined their methods. You weren't just fighting them, you were teaching them. That's why the game kept changing. They evolved through your resistance. There's a term for it in their documents: iterative suppression optimization. It means they perfect the art of control by studying those they fail to control. Your endurance became their research. Your persistence, their manual for breaking future rebels. And yet, that endless adaptation also exposes the one truth they can't quantify: you. Because despite all their predictions, all their behavioral models, all their precision-crafted collapses, you didn't break. You persisted where their equations forecast surrender. You kept creating when their projections showed silence. You kept believing when their metrics demanded despair. You were supposed to vanish by now, a compliant ghost within their statistics. But you didn't. You're still here, still alive, still luminous, and that is their greatest failure. So understand this: every resource spent on suppressing you is proof of your importance. Every file, every briefing, every coordinated attack, all of it testifies to the power you carry, the power to disrupt illusions, to awaken others, to rewrite the code of compliance. Somewhere in their database, your name glows like a warning light, and the deeper truth, the one that terrifies them most, is that your continued existence proves the machine is not invincible. You are living evidence that the human spirit cannot be fully contained. Source Zero burned their bridges to deliver this message, not for fame or vengeance, but for redemption. They saw too many kindred spirits destroyed by a system that equates free thought with danger and authenticity with rebellion. They couldn't remain silent while the machinery continued to suffocate the light out of those born to illuminate others. Their confession is more than testimony. It's an act of resistance, a final statement against an empire of deceit. Because in the end, what the system fears most isn't violence or chaos. It's awakening. It's the rise of souls that cannot be hypnotized, minds that refuse sedation, hearts that defy programming. You were never broken. You were studied. You were never lost. You were learning their maze. And now that you've seen its shape, you can step outside of it. You were never paranoid. You were perceptive. You were never unstable. You were awake. You were never delusional. You were decoding reality itself. They called it madness because the truth, in their world, is heresy. But now you know. The illusion is fragile. The machinery is crumbling. The spell is breaking. And you, yes, you, were always meant to be the signal that starts the collapse. So here you are, still radiating something they can't measure. An unprogrammable consciousness. The one force their algorithms will never decode. To them, that makes you the ultimate anomaly, the living glitch in their immaculate design, an error they cannot delete. And now that you know, everything changes. The machine still hums, still observes, still adapts, but awareness flips the current. You're no longer the test subject, you're the observer. The map has inverted, and the watcher has become the watched. Knowledge may not make the game fair, but it breaks the hypnosis. The illusion of self-blame dissolves, and for the first time, you see every scar for what it is. Proof of a war you didn't start, but somehow survived. Every setback, every strange coincidence, every betrayal. It wasn't weakness, it was warfare. You were never broken, you were attacked. But even under pressure, even surrounded by design, you adapted faster than their systems could predict. That's what terrifies them most. Not rebellion, not protest, but awareness. Because awareness dismantles illusion without a single weapon drawn. The moment you stop believing their version of you, their whole structure begins to crumble. The invisible walls lose their weight. The fake authority loses its power. The puppet strings hang loose, exposed in the light. Source Zero's final transmission was simple, but seismic. They're still watching, but now you're watching back. You've become self-aware within their simulation, a reflection they can't distort, a signal they can't jam. That's what real liberation looks like. Not escape, but sovereignty. Moving through their maze with open eyes, unchained and unreadable. You start noticing the cycles, the same faces, the same random obstacles, all replaying like a broken pattern trying to reassert control. But now you see it before it hooks you. You see the traps forming before they're sprung. And when you see the mechanics behind the mask, the puppet show loses its magic. That's the moment the system begins to panic. You can sense it in the air, the sudden noise, the disinformation, the desperate spin. They brand truth-tellers as delusional, whistleblowers as unstable, awareness as madness. They flood the feeds with confusion, twisting narratives until truth and fiction blur into static. But it's too late. The truth has gone viral, not through headlines, but through awakening. Across the world, people are whispering, "That's me." They're seeing the design, connecting the dots, realizing their isolation was never natural. They weren't failures, they were targeted. They weren't broken, they were being broken. The illusion of random misfortune is cracking, and through that fracture, light pours in. Source Zero called this the critical mass event, the moment enough anomalies wake up and realize they're not alone. The system survives on silence, ignorance, and self-blame. Awareness is its extinction event. Every awakened mind weakens its code. Every self-aware soul scrambles its predictions. The prison doesn't need to be shattered. It only needs to be seen. Awareness itself is the jailbreak. Because once you understand the architecture of control, the control collapses under observation. The system can't operate in full view. It only thrives in your unawareness. And now, you see, you finally see. They built the walls, but you held the key all along. They built the story, but you now hold the pen. They trained you to blame yourself, to participate in your own containment, to guard the very cell you were placed in. But awareness ends that contract. You don't fight them head on. You simply stop feeding them your energy. Stop narrating your life with their language. Stop agreeing to their definitions of success, failure, and worth. The moment you withdraw belief from their script, their narrative collapses under its own emptiness. You reclaim authorship of your mind, and in doing so, you become unreadable, invisible to prediction, untraceable to manipulation. That's the one thing no algorithm can handle. A consciousness aware of itself. The system doesn't need a human eye to watch you anymore. It needs your cooperation. Every click, every hesitation, every digital echo of thought builds your behavioral map. But once you know that, the power flips. You stop moving predictably. You think in silence. You act with awareness. You live with intention. And that single act of conscious unpredictability makes you invisible to the machine. You step beyond their models into the realm of the incalculable, a conscious variable in a coded universe. The moment your awareness rises beyond their prediction models, you become what Source Zero called the blind spot. You are what they cannot compute. And that's the revolution they never prepared for, the silent uprising of awareness. It spreads quietly, untraceably, from one awakened soul to another. The algorithms can't stop it because it's not transmitted through code. It's carried through consciousness. That is the true contagion of awakening. So, move now. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for validation. Act on your awareness before they dull it with noise, before they recalibrate to your frequency. Awareness is your weapon. Stillness is your camouflage. Truth is your firewall. And faith is your signal beyond their spectrum. But this awakening, it's only the beginning. What comes next is not chaos, but clarity sharpened into purpose. You'll start to feel the difference between noise and signal, illusion and intuition. The distractions that once pulled at your spirit will begin to dissolve, revealing a silence so profound it feels like divine strategy. You'll notice how everything around you, conversations, advertisements, even random encounters, tries to tug your frequency downward, back into the comfortable hypnosis of distraction. But you won't fall for it again. You've crossed the threshold where awareness becomes armor. Every attempt to bait you into reaction now reads like a script you've already studied. Every manipulative whisper disguised as guidance now sounds hollow. Because you no longer listen with fear. You listen with discernment. The enemy cannot deceive what sees through the eyes of consciousness. And though the path ahead may look uncertain, remember this. Awakening was never meant to make life easier. It was meant to make you undefeatable. You were forged for this era, for this confrontation between illusion and truth. The system didn't choose you by accident. It targeted you because it sensed your potential to destabilize false order. But in doing so, it became the architect of its own undoing. Every hardship it sent your way became your training ground. Every sabotage became a sermon in resilience. Every heartbreak recalibrated your intuition to detect deception faster than ever before. What they intended to destroy you with has instead built within you a kind of spiritual technology, an immune system for the soul. You now sense manipulation not as paranoia, but as data. You read patterns like scripture. You see meaning where others see coincidence. And now, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Awareness doesn't just liberate, it synchronizes. One awakened soul naturally gravitates toward another. Energy recognizes energy. Truth attracts truth. And soon, what began as isolated awakenings starts forming a network, unseen but unstoppable. Across cities, nations, timelines even, souls are syncing, feeling the same vibrations, hearing the same inner call. A divine algorithm of consciousness, beyond any machine's comprehension, is writing a new code of existence through you. This is the real revolution, the quiet linking of luminous minds who refuse to be hypnotized. You are no longer just an individual anomaly. You are part of a living constellation of awakened beings, rewriting humanity's frequency, one awareness at a time. But Source Zero's final unspoken warning still lingers. Awareness demands responsibility. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you awaken, you become a signal. And signals attract interference. The system will try to seduce you again, not through fear this time, but through comfort, ego, and distraction. It will offer you stages, platforms, validation, and the illusion of success, hoping you'll exchange your awareness for applause. Don't fall for it. The truest revolution doesn't broadcast itself. It radiates quietly, altering reality from the inside out. Guard your awareness like sacred fire. Speak truth only where it plants seeds, not where it feeds the machine. Stay humble. Stay silent when you must, and trust that the light within you doesn't need spectacle. It only needs endurance. Because every time you choose stillness over reaction, discernment over drama, love over retaliation, the matrix loses resolution. You fade from its grasp, untraceable. You move like wind through code, unseen but undeniable. That's the destiny of the awakened, the transition from target to transcendent. You stop being the hunted and become the signal hunter, tracking the fragments of light still trapped in darkness, calling them home. You start freeing others just by being what you are, an unprogrammable consciousness in motion. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when there is no evidence my eyes can see. Let me walk in awareness, anchored in your promise that your plans are for my good, not harm. Thank you, Eternal Father, for always guiding, always protecting, always revealing. In Jesus' name, amen. If this message reached you, if something within you awakened, like, share, and subscribe to this channel so others may find the same light. Leave a comment below about your journey, your awakening, your strength. And if you feel led, consider supporting our mission through Buy Me a Coffee. Every contribution, whether a penny, a prayer, or a share, helps us continue spreading truth and faith to those still lost in the noise. The link is in the description. Your generosity sustains this light. Don't stop here. The next video reveals the hidden signs that mark you as one of the chosen, the ones they fear most. Keep shining, keep rising, keep walking in awareness. You are not crazy. You are awake, and that makes you unstoppable. Blessings to every awakened soul from Rise and Shine.